Hey, I have another album review, and it's for the album The Sinner Rides Again by KKs Priest. If you did not know, KK Downing left Judas Priest and wanted to return to the main band, but he wasn't invited, so he formed his own version with Tim Ripper Owens, who was in the band Judas Priest for a brief period in the 90s. I won't go into too much detail because I explained it in my last review of the previous album, Sermons of the Sinner. I will link that video in the end screen as well as the video description. I enjoyed the first album, although it was not an album I have returned to often over the past years, but I remember giving it praise when I did my initial review. I see this band as something to hold us over until the real Judas Priest finally puts out the long-awaited follow-up to the Firepower album, this one right here, that we have been waiting for over 5 years. KK actually put out 2 albums since the release of Firepower, so you can go into it knowing that it won't be as good as Firepower, but it will be a fun album while we wait. The album had some mixed reviews. I saw one site give it a 4 out of 10, and another one give it an 8 out of 10. I wasn't blown away on my first listen, but there are a few tracks that were pretty good. I'll go over that in more detail in this video. In general, this album, as well as the one before it, sounds a bit like the albums like Jugulator and Demolition, although I think these ones are much better in my opinion. I like the fact that they are playing traditional heavy metal. This is something that a lot of bands are not doing these days. There are so many subgenres of metal right now, so it's always good to get a good old school heavy metal album. The album is pretty much a part 2 to Sermons of the Sinner. I even read a review where they said that this could be the second disc if it were a double album. So you kind of know what you're going to get. The song titles and lyrics are typical heavy metal stuff, sometimes cheesy, and a few of them make references to old Judas Priest songs. The Sinner Rides Again is also a darker album than the debut, so that is something that makes it stand out. This is not a long album. It's 9 songs in 40 minutes. You will notice that a lot of the song titles are derivative of other Judas Priest songs. For example, Sons of the Sentinel is the Sentinel Part 2. Strike of the Viper could be Lightning Strike from Firepower. One More Shot of Glory can be Part 2 of One Shot of Glory from this album, the Painkiller album. Also, Hymn 66 could be a derivative of Battle Hymn from this same album. What I'm trying to say is that they came up with these song titles by picking words out of the JP or Judas Priest song discography. In general, the first few songs were just okay, but my favorite songs were in the middle of the album. Then, towards the end, it gets a little repetitive, but I will break it down for you right now. Sons of the Sentinel starts off with some slow harmonized guitars and then goes into a classic heavy metal guitar riff. I feel the song is very Painkiller album sounding. Tim Ripper Owens is singing in a falsetto style, trying his best to sound like Halford. With that being said, it's not too bad. I like the guitar work in the song. The vocals are okay. I think Ripper sounds better when he sings in the lower range. Strike of the Viper also has the same harmonized guitars in the intro, but this one sounds more like something from the Jugulator album with some darker tones. The song has some heavy guitar riffs, and it's also one of the catchier songs on the album. Reap the Whirlwind has a classic heavy metal sound. The intro sounds a little like Motorhead style guitar riff, and the song in general is a typical Judas Priest sounding song. I like the drumming on the song, and there's a lot of chugging guitar riffs. Tim Ripper lets out some screams in the song, and the guitar solo was very enjoyable. One More Shot of Glory is, I guess, a continuation of One Shot of Glory from Painkiller. This was the first single. It is a pretty good song. It sounds like they're mixing some elements of melodic black metal with classic Judas Priest sound. They also do some tempo changes, and the song is very melodic. This is probably the second best song on the album. My favorite song is the one right after this. Hymn 66 is my favorite song on the album, even though I read one review that said it was just a rehash of Dissident Aggressor. I like this one. It's very over the top. Starts with some demonic voices and then goes into a slow guitar riff that sounds like it could have been on Sad Wings of Destiny. And then it starts to sound like modern, like 72 Seasons Metallica. It's a slower song. It's darker. Tim Ripper does some different vocal styles. The guitar harmonies are very good, and they also have these choir vocals. This is a dark song, but I think it's very good. The Sinner Rise Again seems to continue the flow of the last song. It's almost as if you have to listen to the songs together. It's pretty good. They're not doing anything new. It's mostly traditional Judas Priest, but I like how they add in these guitar harmonies. There's also a slower breakdown towards the end. Keeper of the Graves is one of the darker ballads. It has these baritone choir singers where you can imagine a bunch of guys with dark cloaks holding books who are singing in an old church. I actually put this prompt into the AI image generator, and this is what it came up with. The song is pretty good. It's a fairly generic but enjoyable nonetheless. Pledge Your Souls is another one of the darker songs. It sounds like something from the Jugulator album. It's one of some cool guitar riffs and darker vocals. It's one of the heavier songs with a lot of energetic drumming. The lyrics are very cheesy, but then again, most of the lyrics on the album are kind of cheesy anyway. There's also some cool harmonized guitar parts here as well. Wash Away Your Sins starts with some more quiet chanting, so if you need an image, please refer to that AI generated image I created for Keeper of the Graves. Starts off with a soft Iron Maiden style guitar intro with clean guitars, followed by Tim Ripper Owens singing the first section that leads to some classic heavy metal. Song is pretty cool. Again, they are not doing anything original, but it is a cool song with a lot of dark tones. This one has a lot of that Iron Maiden influence where they add in different melodic sections. And that is all. I kind of like the album. I would say it's enjoyable to listen to. The songs are not original at all. The song titles are very cheesy, and the lyrics seem to be taken from past Priest songs. But I really like this style of music. And as I was saying before, we still have to wait a little more for the follow-up to Firepower. So this is good enough in the meantime. My score is a 7.5 out of 10.
Wow!
The best songs were in the middle of the album with One More Shot of Glory and Hymn 66. I also like the last two, Pledge Your Souls and Wash Away Your Sins. Those were my favorites. The rest are good, but nothing spectacular. That is all. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this album. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Here is my review of Sermon of the Sinner. I will see you in the next one.